Rescue begins with a moment that changes everything you think you know about healing and trust in animals, as a severely matted rescue dog is brought into a quiet grooming space where every sound feels louder than usual and every breath carries uncertainty. Yet, beneath the tangled coat lies a story of survival, waiting to be understood and honored. In this journey, professionals would move slowly with intention, because rushing would betray the fragile trust being built, stroke by stroke, moment by moment. The philosophy inspired by Dr. Karen Becker reminds us that every animal deserves not just treatment, but dignity. And every mat, every knot carries a history of neglect, weather, and time that cannot be undone, only respected as the grooming process begins. Tension fills the room because no one can predict how deep the discomfort will go or how the dog will respond to the first careful touch of the clippers and combs. But there is also something quietly powerful unfolding beneath the surface. A connection forming between human hands and an animal that has likely forgotten what gentle care feels like. And then comes the unexpected moment when the process reveals its first truth beneath the heavy matting. There is not just fur, but skin that has been hidden for far too long. And as the transformation continues, the atmosphere shifts into something almost sacred, because progress is not just visible, it is felt in the slowing of breath and the softening of eyes, and the way trust begins to replace fear. However, what happens next will challenge even experienced caregivers as the most severe matting is uncovered, revealing sensitive areas that require extraordinary patience and precision. And in that fragile balance between relief and discomfort, the entire room holds its breath, waiting for the outcome. The caregivers pause, recalibrate, and approach each section with renewed care, understanding that healing is not a race, but a responsibility shaped by empathy and restraint. The dog, once trembling, now begins to settle slightly as the weight of the matted fur slowly lifts away, revealing signs of life that had been hidden beneath layers of neglect. Yet the process is far from over, because every movement requires attention and every reaction from the animal must be read like a silent language of communication in these moments. Dr. Karen Becker principles echo, clearly emphasizing the importance of minimizing stress and maximizing comfort, even when the task is physically demanding as time passes. What was once chaos begins to transform into clarity, and the first glimpse of the dog beneath the matting brings a quiet emotional shift that no one expected. It is not just grooming anymore, it is restoration of identity. And with each careful pass of the tools, the future of the rescue begins to feel possible again. Though the journey still holds challenges ahead, the foundation of trust has now been established, and that alone changes everything for what comes next. Hope begins to quietly take shape here. As the transformation continues into its deeper stages, the grooming table becomes a place of endurance, patience, and quiet resilience, where every minute reveals new layers of challenge hidden beneath the rescue dog's severely matted coat. And what once seemed like a straightforward cleanup now unfolds into a complex emotional and physical journey that demands precision, compassion, and unwavering focus. The caregivers adjust their techniques constantly, guided by experience and the gentle principles often associated with Dr. Karen Becker, who emphasizes reducing fear, preventing trauma, and honoring the emotional state of every animal as much as their physical condition. The dog, once frozen in uncertainty, now shows subtle signs of responsiveness, a small shift in posture, a faint relaxation in the shoulders, and the occasional glance that suggests awareness rather than pure distress. And these micro moments become the fuel that keeps the process moving forward. Yet beneath this fragile progress lies a hidden challenge that slowly emerges like an unexpected storm, as the densest mats near the chest and hind areas reveal not just discomfort, but severe restriction that has likely affected movement for a long time. And the team must pause again, recalibrate their approach, and work with even greater care to avoid causing pain or injury. Every tool movement becomes deliberate. Every separation of fur, a careful negotiation between what must be removed and what must be preserved for the dog's safety. And in these critical moments, time seems to stretch, making each second feel heavier than the last. Then, without warning, a breakthrough occurs that changes the energy in the room as the dog exhales deeply for the first time, no longer holding tension in every muscle. And this subtle release signals the beginning of true acceptance of the process. The transformation is no longer just physical, it becomes emotional, almost spiritual, as layers of neglect fall away to reveal a being that is slowly remembering comfort and care. However, just as hope begins to rise, another unexpected complication is discovered beneath a thick, tightly bound section of fur, requiring the team to stop completely and reassess the safest possible path forward. Because any rushed movement could undo the fragile trust they have built so far. This moment introduces suspense that hangs heavily in the air, as everyone involved understands that one wrong decision could set back the entire recovery, yet standing still is not an option either. With steady hands and focused determination, they proceed in smaller, more controlled steps, prioritizing the dog's emotional stability above speed or efficiency. The environment remains quiet, except for the soft sounds of grooming tools and the occasional calming reassurance in movement rather than words. And through it all, the influence of Dr. Karen Becker's philosophy remains present, reinforcing the idea that healing is never about force, but about patience, guided by empathy. Slowly, the most difficult sections begin to weave away, revealing cleaner fur, improved movement, and the first real signs that the dog is transitioning from survival mode into recovery, setting the stage for the final state of transformation that still lies ahead. As the final stage of the rescue transformation begins, the atmosphere shifts from tension into a quiet sense of anticipation, because what was once a heavily matted, overwhelmed rescue dog is now revealing a form that feels lighter, both physically and emotionally, after hours of careful grooming. Every section of fur that once concealed discomfort has been thoughtfully removed, leaving behind a being that can finally move without restriction and breathe without strain. The Kennyverse stepped back for a moment, observing the dog as it slowly begins to explore its own body language, as if rediscovering itself in real time. This is where the philosophy inspired by Dr. Karen Becker becomes deeply evident, reminding everyone that healing is not just about appearance, but about restoring comfort, dignity, and emotional balance in animals that have endured neglect suddenly. The dog that once trembled at every touch now leans slightly into the hands that helped it, signaling a breakthrough in trust that feels almost unbelievable given the condition it arrived in. Yet the journey is not without reflection, as the team considers how long this suffering might have gone unnoticed and how many other animals may still be waiting for similar intervention. The final reveal becomes a moment of quiet triumph as the dog stands fully groomed, no longer burdened by the weight of neglect. And in that transformation, there's a awful reminder that compassion requires time, patience, and unwavering commitment to the well-being of those who cannot speak for themselves, as the camera captures the final result. The contrast between before and after speaks louder than any words ever could. And in this quiet moment of completion, the message becomes clear that every animal deserves this level of care, respect, and understanding. Yet even beyond the grooming table, the impact of this transformation continues as the dog begins to walk with renewed confidence, showing subtle signs of curiosity toward its surroundings, as if the world itself has become larger and more welcoming than before. The caregivers reflect on the importance of patience in every rescue situation, recognizing that rushing any stage could have compromised the fragile progress that was so carefully built throughout the session. Each movement now carries a sense of closure and renewal as the dog finally rests without the burden of heavy matting, its breathing steady and calm, a visible sign of relief that echoes through the entire room. The experience leaves a lasting impression on everyone present, reinforcing the belief that compassionate care can rewrite even the most difficult beginnings into hopeful outcomes, and that every animal deserves a chance at comfort, safety, and dignity. This moment stands as a reminder that rehabilitation is a journey, not a single act of grooming, but a continuation of care, compassion, and responsibility that extends far beyond the immediate visible transformation. It continues. If you are benefiting from our topics, please subscribe, like, and turn on the bell notifications so you can see our new videos early.